welcome back to another bonus episode of Seek the Joy podcast. So today I want to talk about something I like to call flipping the script. Let me explain a little bit about what I mean. So many of us, including myself, have walked through life, different aspects, different times, feeling really small and projecting and portraying ourselves as being small. And for me, that means a couple of things. One, thinking of yourself as like small, non-existent, not important, that you don't have something to contribute. It's this mentality of like, who am I to do X? Or who am I to think X? Or to want to achieve something so great. I think oftentimes we corner ourselves into thinking we are limited. We're not limited, and it's something I've had to learn and overcome for myself. So it's about reframing it and stepping away and stepping outside of this smallness of feeling so small. And so for me, flipping the script means starting to really believe in yourself. It's about beginning to believe that you are someone, you are important, you are special, you do have something to contribute. I'm learning that this sense of inferiority, this sense of smallness, is what keeps us from feeling joy. Think about that for a second. If you let yourself stay or remain in this small mentality, meaning thinking you can't achieve great things, thinking you can't interact with a heavy hitter in your career or in your field, or that you just can't achieve your dreams in general, you're limiting your joy, you're limiting your potential, you're limiting who you actually can be. And so I'm learning that in order to really step into my joy, which means to step into being the best version of Sydney and doing what it is that I love and meeting amazing people and having all of these conversations and pursuing what it is that I want to pursue in my career, it means I have to stop thinking so freaking small. And this occurred to me I told you guys I've been thinking about these bonus episodes for a long time. This occurred to me about a month ago when I was feeling really intimidated about reaching out to certain people about coming on this podcast. And I kept thinking, well, they're going to think I'm small, or like small in the sense of like it's a smaller podcast. Like this isn't super well known yet. I'll just say I have really expanded what I know and what I believe is capable for Seek the Joy podcast. And so that's meant pushing myself to stop thinking so small and to actually hit send on those emails that I've wanted to hit send on. And I will share this too. It was really scary for me to put myself out there with certain people and ask them to come on this podcast. Because of course, you set it up in your mind, like they'll say no, or they'll they'll come up with whatever my excuse that I came up with in my mind. Like, as we all know, I have a fear of rejection that I'm working through. But when I got the responses that I did, which was, we would love to come on your podcast. I would love to come on your podcast. When can we schedule the interview? It was like a light bulb went off for me. I have to flip that script because that storyline that I've created for myself that says I am small is wrong. So I am literally physically small. I am 5 foot tall. I am not a tall person. But I have for my whole life made myself smaller and done everything in my power to make myself smaller. I'm going to just tell you a quick story. So when I was really intensely in therapy, probably like 2012, 2013, and really going through it, and it had a lot to do with like anxiety and fear about going to law school. And I had all this other stuff going on in my life, and I would literally do everything in my power while sitting on the couch in her office to make myself smaller. And I'll never forget the first time she called me out, because she calls me out and called me out, and I needed someone in my life to do that. She would say, do you see what you're doing with your body right now? You are literally as far over on the end of the couch as you can be. You're not taking up any space. Oh, okay, light bulb, taking up space. All right, I'll get to that in a second. You're literally not taking up any space. You are quite literally making yourself as physically small as humanly possible. And the response I had was like, Well, yeah, because I feel so small. I feel so insignificant. I feel like I have nothing to contribute. I feel like no one takes me seriously. I mean, all the things that we tell ourselves to limit ourselves, right? That are based upon real experiences, and our perspective is so valid, but within recognizing the validity of how you feel in that moment, it's also about recognizing how it's limiting you and limiting your potential for growth and to be the best version of who you are meant to be. And so it takes me back to that light bulb I just had a second ago, which was taking up space. In order to flip the script for yourself, you have to be willing to take up space. Take up space in your life, take up space in someone else's life, take up space in the world. I think so many of us fear about being seen and heard and really acknowledged and recognized. And I've really reflected on this in the last couple of months. And I share this in an upcoming podcast episode with a phenomenal guest. But my whole life, I have sort of hidden behind the bushes, hidden in the shadows, and only kind of like peeked my head out from around the corner when it felt safe to do so, because I have never been someone that trusts other people easily. I've never been one to trust life, I guess is the best way to put it. And I'm such an analytical thinker that I want to always make sure that the situation or the person is safe for me before I expose myself, like in a vulnerable way. But for me, vulnerability has been like as simple as like really just being honest with how I feel on any given day. I'm not talking necessarily about this level of vulnerability in this 15-minute podcast episode that you're hearing. Like 5 years ago, this podcast would not exist. But my whole life I've been someone who just would peek out when it felt safe, and then I would like go back into the shadows again, because I was never willing or ready to take up space in my own life. And so now with this podcast, I have taken up more space in my life and in other people's lives than I ever thought humanly possible. I also want to say that taking up space is not a bad thing. You're not intruding on someone's space. You're not in like putting yourself on someone. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying like being present, being open, being you, let the real you be seen. You know, it's about letting that inner beauty shine. It's about letting that authenticity come through. And so the second that we are willing to take up space in our own lives, everything changes. I have connected with so many incredible people since starting this podcast, from the people who I get to interview, to their teams, to the wonderful connections I make because of all the incredible people who reach out to me and want to talk about the podcast and how it's impacted them. This podcast has certainly strengthened a lot of relationships in my life. On the flip side, it's also weakened quite a few relationships in my life, which I'm not super happy about, but I can't control anybody else. I can only control me. And so flipping the script means taking up space. I realize I just spoke in a huge circle, but I don't have any notes. I'm just going off of whatever kind of like freely associates in my brain. The other end of flipping the script has a lot to do with releasing our fears and releasing our apprehensions and getting on with pursuing our passions. You have to release those fears. You have to release those worries, those anxieties, those trepidations. You have to be willing to put your foot on the accelerator, even if it's only going 10 miles an hour. You have to just be willing to start the car and start the momentum and get it going. That's the only time you're going to be able to flip the script and really get on with pursuing your passions. And I'm not talking about in career, I'm talking about in life in general. Pursue who you want to be. Do whatever it's going to take to get you there. Flip that script. But when it comes to flipping the script, the only thing I know to do is to actually just flip it. I think if you're the kind of person that likes to journal, journal. If you're the kind of person who wants to talk to someone, talk to someone. But more than anything else, have that intention for yourself to flip that script. And be more mindful of the ways in which you're really limiting yourself in your life. You know, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis to keep yourself small, to keep yourself feeling small? And I'm talking like energetically feeling small. What are you doing, every day to set yourself up to kind of like perpetuate that smallness? And then what can you do to interrupt it? What can you do to change it? How can you be more mindful of it? It does take, those steps, and ultimately you end up getting to your destination, which is to really stand in your power and recognize your worth and who you are. I mean, we are all so special. We all have something to share, and the world needs you to share that. The world needs you to share the ways in which you're special, and you need to do it for yourself too. All right, so that's it. That's all I have to say for today's bonus episode. Flip that script in your life. It is so worth it, and it is something that I am working on. So if you have any feedback or things that you've done that you would love to share with me and this community, I would love that. I think the more information that we can sort of share and contribute, it's all about growth, and it's all about reminding ourselves that we're not alone. All right, guys, thank you so much. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, or let's get social and join me on Instagram at seekthejoypod_. All right, have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see you right back here for another Seek the Joy Tuesday.